This is Smoking Out the Closet. Now, here are your hosts.
Hello, everybody. My name is Rayven. I use she, her pronouns.
I'm Asmodeus. I use they, them pronouns.
And welcome back to another episode of Smoking Out the Closet. For those of you who are new or just joining us, we are a queer podcast.
Pun intended.
Talks about cannabis,
The LGBT community,
and everything in between.
and beyond.
So welcome.
Welcome.
So, I guess we should probably get started on why we missed a week.
And how we're going to be shifting our schedule. Pardon me. I don't know what my voice is doing. Actually, yes, I do. I was at a concert last night, so that's why my voice is like this. But we're shifting our recording schedule. I'm going to go probably do every 2 weeks. Still publishing on Tuesdays.
Yeah, and this is mostly just because, like, a lot of the stuff I'm doing with the VA and trying to get my health kind of back to my normal, I guess you could say. And just having, like, appointments and everything are going to be very time-consuming for me. So rather than trying to rush to force an episode dealing with the appointments, it'll just be easier for us to just kind of take 2 weeks to do one episode. It gives me more time to edit the podcast, so hopefully the podcast will sound even better, and we could do more stuff for it. As well, I can do like post episode like things and put stuff on TikTok and Instagram again, because I just got too busy with everything and I was getting burnt out really bad. Is there anything you want to add to that part before we go into the actual show itself?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. I will say quality sound might be a little different. For some reason, Riverside wasn't working, so we are going back to Spotify's main thing itself that it uses to record. So audio quality may shift a little. I'm not 100% sure. I do like how Riverside sounds better usually, but for some reason, it just was not working at all for me today. So Spotify, if you're listening to this, fix it. This was your pick this week. Do you want to introduce it?
This was. So I had a little 1 gram of Cake Crasher from Calypso. Sorry, it's CKE Crusher for the DOH's approval. But it's Cake Crusher. And it's tested at 26%. It has 2% of CBGA in it, which is nice. And then top terps are limonene at 0.795, beta caryophyllene at 0.542, linalool at 0.24, and then the rest is under 0.2%. But honestly, like, I don't know, I really like it. I feel like that CBG is definitely, the CBG or CBD? It's CBG.
Yeah,
I can definitely feel that because like my tongue has been a little upset recently.
Mhm.
And that definitely has seemed to help. Like I've have had a bunch of cramps and stuff too. So
Yeah, and it's got a. I mean, as far as like it also has. Did you see how much humulene it had in there?
no, I didn't.
It definitely has a bit of humulene in there. Not a whole heck of a lot, but I mean, even just a little bit helps, honestly.
It's really hard to find something that has a lot of humulene, just because humulene one of those terpenes that's a lot rarer to find.
Yeah, that and osmine, I feel like.
Yeah.
I gave this a 3 out of 5. What did you think?
I gave it like a 3.25. It is definitely a lot better than the last time we've had Calypso. Since then, they've moved on to the Mylar bags. It definitely has helped them. Those cat food cans are cool. They're nitro sealed, but like once you bust that, it's dry. And their cure was already dry in those.
Yeah, and this one was actually the first Calypso I've had in a long time because my store doesn't sell Calypso anymore. So I was very surprised with how squishy and dense it was.
I did have another little 1 grammer that I had tried beforehand, and it's sticky. You break it apart, it sticks. It's like it stuck inside my grinder. My other 1 gram was stuck into the mylar. Like I had to pick it out of the mylar because it wouldn't shake out.
Yeah, I would say it was very sticky for me when I was getting it broken up.
Yeah, it tastes good too. It's just, I don't know. could be a little stronger in the effects, but I am giving it a lot better rating than the last time. I think I gave it a Z0.
No, that was the bank.
That was the bank.
That was the bank.
Okay, but like I did get to talk to the rep. They did have a pop up at my store. They did get acquired back in November from this other grow processor. I can't remember the name of them. They're somebody who's like brand new in the PA industry of things. And they have a lot of plans, for redoing a lot of the genetics. They're going to start from seed instead of doing from clone. They're going to keep the mother plants nice and healthy. Like, they're going to have they have a whole new process. They got a lot of new growers in from California too. And so, like, I definitely see that now, even though it only has been a few months now because it's April. So November, December, January, February, March, April. It's been 5 months, and their product has drastically improved since. Gosh, what was that? Almost. It was definitely over a year ago when that the last time we had them was.
So, the company that bought Calypso, apparently, according to Medical Marijuana Daily or MMJDaily.com, was Canvas Acquisition Corporation. New Lake Capital Partners announced the Hero Diversified. Yeah, it's a New Lake tenant company.
Apparently, they have some connections to some interesting like white labels, and it's going to help expand their brand too because they are very small still, like starting out.
Yeah, and it is interesting considering that like not too long ago we were talking about the potential of Cresco buying them.
Yeah.
So I definitely do want to see where this goes because like there's not a whole lot of information other than it was bought in November last year,
Mm-hmm.
and it looks like a firm. So yeah, it looks like an actual firm under the Canvas Acquisition Corporation. Okay.
All right.
I mean, if it makes it better, I guess, but like, I don't know how I feel about a firm getting into weed.
Yeah.
That's weed's already getting corporate and I honestly don't know how I would feel about that. And so, do you have anything to add before we get into actual topics?
I don't think so.
All right. So the first topic I wanted to bring up today was because with my side project social media page, the Rainbow Veteran, which little I guess insert here. Go follow the Rainbow Veteran on TikTok and Instagram, YouTube. I talk about a lot of stuff about being a queer vet, and life, like helping vets and like just kind of breaking a lot of misconceptions for both the LGBTQI plus community and veterans. So yeah, go follow me. I'm only doing short form right now, but hopefully get to the long form later.
Heck yeah.
So recently with the Twitter profile that I have with it, I've been blasting JK Rowling.
As you should.
I'm not ratioing her yet, unfortunately, but I'm calling her out and blasting shit. So recently, the United Kingdom, thanks to the NHS or the National Health Service, basically the medical system that England has, created a review known as the Cass Review, and people like J.K. Rowling are saying it's a victory in protecting kids from quote being forced to be trans. The review states while a considerable amount of research has been published in this field, systematic evidence reviews demonstrated the poor quality of published studies, meaning, oh, sorry, meaning there is not enough reliable data based upon which to make clinical decisions or for children and their families to make informed decisions. Now, when I say this, Cass was quoted as saying the studies and everything that have been done for trans people are not valid enough because they're not double blind studies. Is that right? I was talking to you about this over breakfast a little bit.
Yeah.
It
And it is very hard to do ethical double-blind studies in science. Yes, we have done it before, but they were very unethical. There was you now are required by law, I believe, with studies to tell, hey, you are being observed for a study. That is the minimum of what they have to tell you. And then they inform you in a debriefing afterwards. But some things that they were testing for with some of these double blinds can be like very traumatizing to not say that this is not real coming out the get-go. Not like, I can also say not real, but it is, staged for a study.
yeah, like you don't know if you're the placebo control group or not, and that
Yeah.
can cause a lot of issues. And that's a lot of things gender critical, with heavy air quotes, gender critical. People like to talk about is that there's no proper way to have a control group with trans folks because they know that they're getting a placebo. They'll like figure out that like, hey, this isn't working and everything for them.
Mm-hmm.
Which I want to bring up a fact with that, and I in my notes I'm probably going to double say this as well. But we have been using puberty blockers for non-trans kids for a while. We had placebo-based control groups. Shocker. Like I don't understand it.
Yeah.
So here's the problems after I did a couple hours of research on the review, and well, let me tell you, if you don't like reading reviews or legislation articles for fun or for anything you have to do, I wouldn't recommend doing it. It reads like radio instructions. It is horrible. It is the worst thing ever. It is so monotonous, and it's almost like they're word padding sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh, this article has to be at least 10,000 words. Let me put all these extra words that don't need to be fucking in here to get to my point.
Like a high schooler trying to hit the word limit, like the word minimum.
Yes, exactly. And now with like the science ones and the studies, I understand like some of the words they do have to use to convey the things, but also you can use simple terms.
Yeah.
You don't have to use medical jargon all the time. Especially in the conclusion. You've already gone over the medical terms. Just say the term and that's it.
Wrap it up.
So okay, so here's my problem with the cast review. Or problems I should say. This is in no particular order. There is no control group for this review. There is no control group whatsoever. They just basically took a bunch of kids with a small sample size, which a lot of times that happens, like with weed. But it was a small sample size, and it literally had no control group.
You can't do a study without a control group.
You could do observational studies.
Yeah, but if you're doing like a subjective study
with medication, that's the big
Yes.
thing. It's medication based because like a lot of weed studies don't do control groups because it's more of just seeing how it works and doesn't work for people.
Mhm.
But a lot of them don't have control groups where they're going to give you basically like how do you make a placebo weed?
I mean, you can do hemp.
But hemp also has medicinal properties.
Yeah, that's right. That's a good point.
But with HRT and puberty blockers, you kind of have to do a control group with that. Oregano.
Oregano.
We're gonna give people oregano.
Smoke oregano. No, they would know.
Here's a good one. It ignores the Lancet Journal of Children and Adolescent Health study from an October 2022 publishing that followed 270 trans teenagers who were taking HRT for over the course of 5 years, and to see the effects of their health. Had a 98 improvement rate, with only 2% having a regret in some varying levels of their care. That is less than most non-cosmetic surgeries including knee surgery, which has a 13% regret rate.
They're fucking hard to heal. I know a lot of people who are like, I don't know if this is worth it because the healing is a bitch.
It also ignored the 2023 U.S. trans survey that pulled information from both in and out of the trans community, but gave more focus on those who oh, sorry, I'm skipping a part. But in and out of the trans community, that survey also marked roughly around 1 to 2% people were not satisfied with their transition, and some of them medically transitioned, some of them just socially transitioned. But it also gave information on outside sources that potentially could have caused them to not be satisfied, like their living situation, relationships, how safe they feel in the state they live.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of factors why people detransition, and I want to put a big thing here first, real quick, before I continue. If you detransition because you figure, oh, I thought I was a trans woman. Turns out I'm non-binary. I don't really want to continue where I'm at. I'm quite comfortable, or I want to go a little further back. If you were pressured by a lot of, because there's a lot of outside people who like, oh, if you're trans, you need to be on hormones and you need to have surgery, you need to have this and that, and a lot of the pick-me's in the trans community will also say that. Your transition is your transition. Whatever you want, however you feel the most comfortable in your own skin, that is how you're going to feel the most comfortable in your own skin. If someone was kind of still exploring, realized they went too far because it happens sometimes. A lot of the outside sources who are kind of like, this is how you be trans, which is not the actual case, basically make people feel like they have to do the hormones. They have to do this. They have to do XYZ. And it's not the psychiatrists or the doctors that are like forcing them, because sometimes they actually do feel that they could. A lot of detransitioners quote unquote detransition because it's no longer safe for them to. Their source for their HRT gets cut off. They move and they're in an area where, because like work or whatever, they're in an area or in a state that it's not safe for them to be trans, so they put it off. Some people stop their hormone therapy to have kids.
Mm-hmm.
That happens quite a bit. So a lot of the people who figure it out, I don't remember their username, but there is someone who says they're a detransitioner on TikTok because they figure they're more non-binary, so they're kind of going back a couple steps a little bit, and they are very adamantly for the trans community, and they said don't hate the trans community just because like people like me exist. We're very rare, and they were saying a lot of the stuff I'm saying is a lot of push from those, we call them trans men, or the people who are saying like, oh, this is how you be trans because it fits more with the cis hetero normative world that we have to apparently abide by, which we don't, just to appease and make them comfortable,
Absolutely not.
which is 100% not the case. So I don't want anyone to think we're very against, like a lot of people are saying the trans community is against detransitioners. We're not. We're against the ones that are basically being the small handful that are basically going against the trans community. And we're not like, we don't want any harm come to them. We don't want them to like die or anything. We just more like, we don't support them. And they don't need to be in our lives, but they also don't need to speak for us.
Yeah.
I've said it once before, and I said it multiple times. Like, what's their name? It's Ollie something. Ollie London who wanted to look like a member of BTS, so he got plastic surgery to look more Korean, and then try and think, oh, well, maybe I'm actually, for some reason, tried it with trying to look more like a woman who was Korean, and then realized, oh, this isn't what I want, and is a quote unquote detransitioner. Ollie London is not a detransitioner. Ollie London wasn't really trans.
Yeah.
And like try to make themselves look Korean. I'm like, what?
Sometimes I'm surprised people don't hurt their arms for these stretches they try to go for.
Yeah,
These reaches.
yeah,
It's a little far.
but Ollie London has been apparently a big quote unquote detransitioner and like very adamantly against the trans community.
Jesus.
Oh, here we go. Going back to the cast review. The review ignores testimony from trans kids who have had positive experiences during the study and gave more focus on those who had negative or detransitioned. So, this is my final thoughts on the review. This review was very obviously a political stunt dressed as a study. There are so much more studies and reviews and research done in and outside the United Kingdom that shows that the cast review is a blatant meta-analysis on what's actually going on. In a way, this is just synthetic fuel made to help a cause for people to go against trans people. Do you have anything you want to add to that?
No, that's right on the nose of where to end on that, I feel like.
Yeah, because like it's very blatantly not for trans people. It's
Yeah.
very blatantly, oh, excuse me. It's very blatantly like, oh, this. See, we don't want to give we don't want to help kids, and we don't want to help them we don't want to help them block their puberty, because what if they regret it down the road when all puberty blockers does is delay puberty.
It'll still come if you stop puberty blockers.
That's literally like, I don't understand. I don't understand the hate. I don't understand the reasoning for all of this. I really don't. But yeah, I've been fighting the comment section on J.K. Rowling's tweets, and I was talking to some of my coworkers about it, and I got reminded she's a Holocaust denier.
She just keeps getting fucking worse and worse.
Yeah, she denied the things the Nazis did in the 1930s, like burn the gender and sex research facility that we've talked about multiple times on this podcast, that I'm not looking up how to pronounce his name right now. Multiple times we talked about it on the podcast, and she denies that ever happened. There's newspaper articles written about it happening. There's photographs of it happening. There's arrest records arresting the scientists and the people doing the research. There's a trans German group full of transgender women that was photographed in their little like area where they would hang out. I think it was like a ballroom or a dance area, because they were dressed up to dance and everything. There's documentations of it in 1930, 1929, 1930, 1931, before Hitler got into power. There's photographic evidence. But no, this trans thing's new. I'm going on a little rant here.
Has she never talked to somebody who's actually fucking been there? Somebody who survived the Holocaust?
Yeah.
What would happen if one of those people and her sat down in a room together?
I don't know.
Maybe her head would explode. That was best case scenario.
Yeah, no, I definitely think like she wouldn't know what to do, because I feel like she's just grifting to keep her name out into the public.
Mm-hmm.
because she was starting to lose traction and everything and popularity because J.K. Rowling can't freaking write.
No, she steals all her shit.
And not only, like, I understand, like, getting inspiration and everything because, like, Star Wars is heavily inspired by Dune.
Yeah,
You can see it.
But Star Wars didn't take Dune and change the names and rearrange the schools and make it a little bit more racist and publish it under their own name.
Yeah, but also, because, like, well, there's a lot in Dune that's very in Star Wars, though. I will say there's a lot that George Lucas was basically almost like a, let me change the answer here a little bit.
Mm-mm.
But this is not a nerd podcast, so I'm not going to go super deep into that. But I will say that, like, there's a lot of plot holes in Harry Potter. I'm not going to go deep in that either. But back in 2019, 2018, I was listening to the audiobooks, and I'm thinking, especially near the end of the series, she didn't world build very well. As a writer, she did not world build very well. The only option, pretty much, Harry Potter has plot armor the entire time. He's the worst Mary Sue ever out of the late 90s, early 2000s book series.
No.
The worst one. Oh, he just magically gets the answer to win. The entire school system is pretty much the Illuminati controlling everything. And Harry has 4 options to go out into the world and become whatever thing, and he basically becomes a wizard cop. Because plot. She can't write.
No.
I've read lesbian romance books with better plot than Harry. Better plot, less plot armor, and less of a Mary Sue than Harry Potter. I swear this podcast isn't a J.K. Rowling bashing podcast. That's probably somewhere out there.
No, it's an LGBTQ podcast, and that just comes naturally to bash J.K. Rowling. That's just all that happens.
It's just that J.K. Rowling is very staunchly weird when it comes to trans people, and there's a lot of things that are kind of not racially sensitive in her books and extended universes and games. But it's she's a mess. She's a mess. I will wholeheartedly say she is a fucking mess.
Mm-hmm. That's word for it.
Is there anything you want to say before we go on break?
I'm still pissed that I jumped off the Twitter train before I could have her successfully block me. I have always wanted her to block me on Twitter. That would have been amazing. Her to block me on Twitter, and if I were ever to get a cease and desist from Nintendo for all of the ROMs I've downloaded, I would frame both of them. I would print out a screenshot of "this user has blocked you" of J.K. Rowling's Twitter and frame it on my wall.
Alrighty, on that note, we are going to go on break, and then we'll be back after a quick word about Lazy Susan.
Yeah.
Pretty in pink and purely wood pulp derived, Blazy Susan pink rolling papers and cones will add a pop of color to your next smoke sesh. Their classic pink papers are naturally dyed, vegan, GMO-free, and food safe. They contain no amounts of heavy metals or pesticides unlike other paper producers. Care about what goes in your lungs with Blazy Susan papers and cones. Use promo code BGSOTC20 at checkout to get 20% off with your friends at Smoking Out the Closet. Plus, get free shipping on orders over $50 in the United States. And we are back. So, this next part, it's kind of near and dear to my heart. I've talked about it on my other social media stuff. I first got this article from military.com, and the title sent me in a little bit of like a concerned worry, because this article written by Rebecca Keel, the title is Transgender Veterans Sue to Force VA to Cover Gender Affirming Surgeries. Or Gender Affirmation Surgery, sorry. And I showed you a little earlier today how people not reading the article
Yeah, they just read the headline.
don't, like, they just read the headline and then run with it without reading the article. And I emailed Military Times and saying, like, hey, I'm worried about this being weaponized against the trans community. And I was right to be, because 2 days after I emailed Military Times, I saw this pop up on a couple military TikTok, veteran TikTok pages. Some of them were just saying it matter of factly, but the comment sections was horrible on them. And then some of them were like just being assholes and transphobic, saying like, "Oh, we shouldn't do this. Why the fuck are we doing this?" So I want to talk about this a little bit, if you would, with me.
Okay.
Um, so the lawsuit is coming from TAVA, which I am a member of. It is the Transgender American Veteran Association. And what they do is they have been a big push, along with the American Legion, of getting the rights and health services for transgender military personnel and veterans and their families, proper care during and after you know, their time in the service, while they transition. And as a trans veteran myself, the wording of that title was very concerning for me. So I have the article here written up, but I'm pretty much just going to read a couple quotes in here and just like having the numbers here, but I'm pretty much just going to be talking straight through a lot of the stuff. Um, so essentially, this is the second lawsuit now that TAVA has filed against the VA after they have already stated that they are going to work to help trans veterans. I believe the first one was in 2021, I believe. Oh no, 2016. I'm sorry. So yeah, like, and then the VA estimated. That's where I got the 2021. VA estimated that care for transgender veterans who could qualify for surgery. This was about 4,000 veterans at the time. Would cost the VA anywhere between 3.5 million and to 78 million dollars annually, depending on the number of patients and the type of surgery they get. In a 2016 analysis. Basically, the VA is saying it's not ready to offer surgeries because they have to study how the enrollment system works and how it's affected thanks to the PACT Act passing, which I'm not saying the PACT Act is a bad thing. I am 1000% behind the PACT Act. It should have been put out freaking sooner to help a lot of the Vietnam era veterans, because a lot of it is too little too late. But the thing I don't understand, and and this is one thing I don't get, is the VA is estimating that this is going to cost a few $1,000,000, which surgery, yes, I get is expensive. Not every trans person wants surgery, though. So there's going to be cost reductions there. And there's a lot of money being spent on ED medications in and out of the military.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot being spent with the VA with that. Now, I get it. I'm using myself here as an example. PTSD, mental health can cause a lot of issues with that, right? I totally 100% get that. And I get it's kind of a blood thinner, so it could be prescribed for that as well. But some people are getting it through the VA just because they're a little up there in years. And I'm like, cool. If you get it, you get it. You're using the VA as your main doctor. That's cool. That's fine. I'm not against it. But if that's allowed and that's not service connected, why are people arguing that, oh, we shouldn't do it for trans people because it's not service connected? But we're pledging to help LGBTQI plus veterans and their families. And here, let's take this a bit further. This is what I said on response. Say you're in the military, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm using Navy words here, but in the Navy, the Secretary of the Navy sent out SecNav 1000.11 Alpha, which is the update to the Navy in 2021 that talks about what they're going to do for trans military personnel, enlisted and officers. There's a section of it that says transgender military personnel will receive the same care and treatment as any other issue in the hospitals of the Navy. If they are deemed by a military medical professional, so usually an officer in the medical corps in some facet, that they will be given prescriptions or surgeries to alleviate their gender dysphoria and help with their transition. You can look that up. Google SECNAV 1000.11A or alpha, and you could read the boring radio instructions. That is a notice of instruction from the Secretary of the Navy. It is boring. If you've never read any military documentation, it is the most boring thing ever. But I did it so I can have some resources. So, say you're in the Navy. Halfway through your 4-year contract, you get this notice. This is posted everywhere. Military Times, Navy.mil's got it as a notice because it's coming from the Secretary of the Navy. They put it everywhere for people to know this is an update, right? You find out. You're like, huh. Well, I never came out to anybody, but I've kind of been questioning my gender for a minute. I'm going to go therapy and talk to the medical team. So you go. You get a little slip of paper that says, "Hey, you have gender dysphoria. You've talked to us, and you would like to have your body aligned with more, you would feel more comfortable, and we have seen that you would align better with a more feminine body. We can give you hormone therapy. Not even taking surgery into the account, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you're okay. You start taking hormone therapy. You go overseas. You get deployed. You're on a ship. Can't do the surgery, but we can send medications with every, shipment and everything because, they get that. Everyone's got to have their medicine, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you get your medicine on the ship. Hooray! You're still serving, but you can't get surgery. Okay, cool. But you're still getting your medication. And you spend 2 years on a ship. You finish your tour. You decide not to reenlist. You go home. Hey, congratulations, you're now a veteran. Where are you going to get your medicine from now? Where are you going to get your HRT? From my understanding, there's no way at the current measure and how everything works, there's no way for veterans to kind of get, hey, you're on this, here's where you can go if you're not like retiring or anything, because you can't go to the VA right away. You have to have a service connection or spend over two years in the military to get help. You did 4 years, so you could go down that route. But now you're seeing all of this going on. So you're like, well, I got to go to a civilian doctor. And while you're going through a civilian doctor, you're not on your hormones anymore. You get sick. You get ill violently because going cold turkey on HRT is not good. Trust me, I'm speaking from experience on this. It is not a good thing. The body doesn't react very well with major shifts in hormones. That's why we gradually increase your hormone therapy.
It's the same thing when you're taking any kind of mood altering medications. That's why you, what it's called, titrate. There we go. You titrate up. when you're taking any sort of mood stabilizer or SSRI, and you titrate back down, or else you're going to have violent, horrible withdrawal symptoms.
The body does not do well when you just take something and then just stop it. Like, even something as simple as Wellbutrin, a lot of people don't react very well to it, just quitting cold turkey. So so now you're sick. You're having a hard time finding work. You keep getting sick. You don't have insurance quite yet because you don't have a job quite yet. Where the heck are you supposed to go? If you join the military later in life and you're not old enough to be on you're too old to be on your parents' insurance now, what are you going to do? You're struggling to find a job, you're getting sick, you can have issues trying to keep a job down. Now, this is worst case scenario. I'm amplifying here, okay? So it's going to be a struggle. And while you're struggling, you're getting sick. You can go to the VA to kind of get some help and everything with your military systems, but if they say, oh, hey, we were helping you while you're in the military, we know if you go back on this hormone therapy, it's going to stop you from getting sick. Why is that an issue?
Yeah.
Now, keep in mind, in that scenario I gave, the person was deployed the last 2 years, and they didn't re-enlist. So they didn't have the ability to get surgery. And it was well documented in their medical records during their time in the Navy. And I'm using the Navy because I'm more familiar with the Navy, but this could go for every branch. I just know how the Navy operates a lot better. Even though my mom and my biological father were in the Army, I don't really know how well the Army systems work exactly, so I don't quote the Army systems. And I'm even more blind with the Air Force and the Marines. So, but it's generally the same. Just there's a couple of different things, like we're on a ship. Not all of us, but a decent portion of people are on ships or submarines. So you were slated for surgery, but you got deployed. You had to do your service at sea. That's fine. You're okay with that. But now that you're not in the military, and they said you're going to do something, and you already had the system in place, and you don't have to go through all the documentations, the therapy sessions, the paperwork, getting insurance and everything to figure out. And all you need to do is just take something off your body or put something on your body, and you would be fine and happy with your body and not have really bad dysphoria. I'm sorry. If you signed up for the military and sacrificed your, relationships, friends, family,
Your safety.
people got divorced because they couldn't be military spouses. People have lost a lot of things, miss holidays, funerals, births, birthdays, achievements in their child's lives. I think you're qualified for healthcare in any way, shape, or form. So why can't we help the trans ones? We can, and I understand the VA's remarkably underfunded. We spend so much money on the military and the military budget, but the VA is remarkably underfunded for what they need. We should give the VA more money to help everybody. But that's just my 2 cents.
And they only care about you when you're in the service and you're enlisted and you are doing something for them. And then after that, it's just like, eh. And then you go through the VA and then they take their time and then it's like, okay. But I feel like there's nothing in between. There's no, hey, you're out of the service until you can get to the VA. Here are places that you can go for XYZ.
Yeah, and that's the thing that, like, I would love to see the military do, because, like, there's a lot of each state's a little different. But if the military could be like, hey, we know you're having this thing, here's what the state requires, here's all your documentation. We'll give you the stuff that you don't have to do everything all over again. Because, like, Pennsylvania, when I started hormone therapy, and I was 22, so 2017 is when I started hormone therapy. So during 2016, I went through 5 therapy sessions that I had to pay out of my pocket because I did not have insurance at the time. I went to 2 different doctors. I had to get cleared. I had to have 2 letters to start HRT. And I had to be of sound mind and body by a psychologist. Some states make it worse. Some states make more hurdles. So the VA has a lot of the military, and then which will eventually go into the VA health systems. If you have those medical records already there, why not just kind of be like, here's what your state says, here's where you're going, here's where you want to live, right? Here's all the paperwork. Here's doctors in the area you're living in who may help. We don't know how good they are, but here's a list of doctors. Because you have VERA programs, which is programs for education and like going back into the civilian world. We have job programs that help them come back and try finding careers and jobs and everything that they're going to do after they get out of the military. And this is like during the process of getting separated. The American Legion does a lot of great stuff and reaches out and helps with this stuff a lot of the time. So, like, even if the military doesn't, and for those of you who are currently serving, I want to say thank you. And my fellow veterans, I want to say thank you first off. But don't be afraid. I highly doubt we have any people who are listening that are currently serving who are trans. But you know what? I'm going to say this out there in case someone knows someone. Please contact the American Legion and talk to them and try to get some help. The national headquarters, the state headquarters, whichever, they may be able to help put you in the right direction of a doctor or a list of doctors in your area, or Google it, but they may be able to know somebody that might be able to help. Contact the VA office in your regional area. Like, contact the one in the city or closest one to you in your area of where you're moving back, and they may be able to help you as well. But it's just, and I know I'm going on a tangent. I'm sorry, I'm taking so much of the radio time right now.
No, you're fine.
It's something I'm really passionate about, and the VA really needs help. To help everybody is vastly underfunded, but the surgeries I feel like should still be offered to help. And even if it's not, like in my case, even if I didn't serve long enough to even figure out everything, because that was well after I got out of the military, and I am not eligible for the health care at the moment, but I still think, let's say I am eligible, say I served long enough that I'm eligible for just regular VA healthcare. If the VA is my main doctor and I'm trans, even if they can't provide service and transfer me to a non-VA health center, they're still pretty much my healthcare system and my insurance wrapped up in one, so they're going to have to pay.
Mm-hmm.
So what's the holdup other than money? That's all it is.
That's all it ever is.
And for those people who are adamantly against it, I've had one person tell me it was a choice for me to transition. It was a choice. And it was like, and I asked him, like, do you think being trans is a choice? Because you could argue, you take safety into consideration. You could take the volatile nature of the medication system right now, where if you start, some areas can make it hard to, if you start, there's already legislation that are going to make it harder. You may have to stop because then it becomes illegal where you live, Florida. You start to see, like, some people be like, as much as it would help me right now, I'm not going to take it. People shouldn't freaking have to choose whether or not to have. Yes, at that point it's a choice, but they're basically choosing their safety over their medication.
Mm-hmm.
And some people were saying, "Oh, people claim that they are trans, that they're born this way, but then they're trying to make it service connected from the military." And I'm like, nobody's trying to say being trans is service connected. Nobody's saying that. That's like saying, "Oh, I was diagnosed with ADHD in the military." That's not service connected. You just happen to find out you had this in the military. And I'll use that analogy. You can literally go, you have veteran healthcare, you go in, you get your ADHD medication because there's documentation. You're a veteran, you go through the VA, you get your medicine through the VA. How come we can't do that for trans people?
Healthcare is literally a basic human right, and everybody should have access to the medication that they need. I don't know why this is what the 21st century. Why is this still an argument?
Please tell me we're on the Star Trek timeline. I really want us to be. Is there anything you want to add to that? Anything at all you want to add? I know the VA and the military, that stuff's not really your realm of knowledge, but
No.
you hear me rant about this stuff a
I
lot.
do. And I don't know, I just like watching you and listening to you talk about something that you're passionate about.
Okay, but I really want to know, like, what's your opinion on veterans getting gender affirmation surgery? As someone who's trans but not a vet yourself.
I honestly, it's your insurance. That's where you get your insurance through. You just so happen to be a veteran that you served. It's literally your body, and you should be able to do with it absolutely what you please. It doesn't matter where your insurance comes from. It doesn't matter, I feel like, who's paying for it. It's for you to improve your quality of life. So that is your decision to make, and to things to be able to do to improve your life. Not decision as in deciding to be trans, but deciding to take the steps and make the initiative to improve your quality of life.
Mm-hmm. No, I get you there. But so you think, just so I can make this a little more cut and dry, you do think that trans veterans should have access for gender confirmation surgery,
Absolutely.
and that if they are in the healthcare system for the VA, that the VA should kind of go for it.
Yes.
Okay. And see, this is also just not even taking into account families. This was only talking about military personnel and the veterans.
Well, if you want to tie it back in to the whole fucking thing that happened with Hobby Lobby and the insurance that they chose to provide to their employees because it did not cover reproductive care, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
You should not take your own personal beliefs into caring for another individual. Ever, point blank, period, end of discussion. Because that is something you learn in basic nurse assistant training, is that these are people that need your help.
Oh yeah, that's pretty much what the whole Hippocratic Oath is about, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't matter who you are. We should, as doctors and nurses, I'm using royal we here, should provide the same amount of care and respect as if someone of your family.
Exactly. Why is it any different for people providing the insurance that's going to give that care to that person?
I don't know. And not to get off too much of a tangent, but that Hobby Lobby thing irks me because there are people who literally need birth control because PCOS, or they have cysts on their ovaries.
Literally have
The IUD.
no, the reason that I have it, it's like some big long fancy word meaning that my periods are really heavy and horrible and they hurt and it's like debilitating, right? My IUD is just as much for I don't want to get pregnant right now because it's not the time, as it is for my body cannot handle that every month.
Yeah,
and it is too much. So even as, especially because of somebody who takes birth control not only for the birth control effects, but like you said, just help your body function. It's the same. It's literally the same. I did parallels. I'm so glad I thought of that.
Oh, that was
I was
good.
just like, yeah, that's in the same. It's in the same vein.
So, real fast before the end the episode, I do want to talk about a bill that is being introduced into Pennsylvania's system. And basically, it's HB 2210, who the major sponsor for the bill is Representative Ammon Brown. Here's the quick Spark Notes version of what the bill would accomplish if and when it passes. Adults 21 and older could purchase and possess and gift up to 30 grams of cannabis. It would allow medical patients to grow up to 5 plants for personal use, but adult use consumers couldn't, so keep your medical cards. Marijuana products would be subjected to an 8% state sales tax, and retailers would pay an additional 5% excise tax on the cannabis itself, which, honestly, compared to other states like California, that's that's pretty good. That's pretty good.
That's reasonable.
Tax revenue will go to the Cannabis Regulatory Fund or Regulation Fund under the state treasury department. Tax dollars would cover administrative costs and then be distributed to can't talk right now municipalities to allow cannabis businesses to operate in their area, and the state general fund to provide economic relief to the Commonwealth. Marketing that targets youth would be prohibited, and there would be a quote workplace requirements regarding marijuana use for all those operating in good faith, according to the sponsor's press release. The administration of Pennsylvania courts would work with police to identify records for people with prior cannabis convictions and facilitate automatic expungements. So people will be getting out of jail, which means people will be able to have felonies and misdemeanors taken off their records, which means people could vote and have their voices heard and would have an easier time finding jobs because now they don't have a criminal record because some of them would just have one or two cannabis charges, and then boom, they're expunged. Guess what? Their employment pool quadruples, and now we have more people working in the business, and the economy is going to start booming.
Mic drop.
Imagine how that works. People have been disproportionately impacted under criminalization and meet economic or income requirements will be eligible for social and economic equity business licenses, which means mom and pop weed shops, which I am all for.
Hell yeah.
Prioritize public safety, giving law enforcement the ability to abdicate impaired driving and empowering them to eradicate the illicit market. Basically, gray market and the legacy market's going to go away, and they're going to do sobriety tests, which is really hard to do as it is. So I'll be interested to see what that looks like. While federal law prohibits people who use marijuana for buying or owning firearms, the bill will provide state-level protection against losing gun rights over cannabis, which is cool.
There's other states that have tried to do that. The federal government gets upset.
Yeah, so we'll see how that works.
Good
and how
luck.
that would work. That might be one of the. If that part is the only thing that's stricken from this and it passes, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I'd be fine with that.
Let's see. Possession or use of marijuana by parents or guardians could not be used on a sole basis for adverse child custody actions.
Good.
So if you're a medical patient, even though this is an issue for some people already and someone's been arrested and had their kids taken away because of it, you would not lose your kids to CPS because you have weed.
And that would also mean that if you have your med card, that you would not be denied your application for a foster parent on the basis of cannabis use.
Yep. Because I know some people in other states that have had CPS called on them for that.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else you want to add before we wrap up?
I don't know. We're cutting it close to the end. That seems like a good place to stop.
Alrighty. Well, once again, my name is Rayven. I use she, her pronouns.
I'm Asmodeus. I use they, them pronouns.
And we'll see you all in the next episode.
Bye.
Bye!